Teddy, good morning.
Morning, Nick. Good to see you.
I'm so sorry that you've lost this wonderful mare. Just describe what she meant to you and your family.
Do you know what? She is just an extraordinary journey. You breed a horse, you're always trying to breed a good one, and you make the comment there that yes, that year she was literally the only horse I had in training. I generally had a policy of selling the colts, racing the fillies. We were colt heavy and one or two other partners that wanted it. So this extraordinary horse came along. None of us knew quite how special she was at those early stages, but it was Jamie Spencer rode her in the maiden at Yarmouth on our wedding anniversary. She came back the following spring in the Pretty Polly and won by 7 lengths. And you thought, oh my God, we're talking about a classic dream here. Now, if you've got a name like Derby and you know the history of a family home called the Oaks, something that has a chance of running in the Oaks at the Derby meeting is just extraordinary. And the journey we went on from there over the next 3 years was utterly unbelievable. You talked about around the world. When I wrote a book about her, Ouija Board and Mare of the Million, I put a map in the back showing the journey that had been made, 125,000 kilometers around the globe. Unbelievable story.
What a tough mare she was, and everybody took to her right from the moment. I think when she won the Oaks under Kieran Fallon, it was one of those Fallon rides where you were never quite sure what he had under the bonnet, and then she just scooted clear. As I say, this day for you and your family must have been pretty remarkable.
There is that. People often ask what was the best race. Well, your first Group 1, your first Classic, and to win at Epsom is just unbelievable. And I'm glad you're showing the camera this way around. If you show it the other way around, you'll show me and a lunatic family screaming, jumping up and down and giving everything. But just look at that margin. Kieran Fallon is not called the assassin for nothing, and a 7-length victory in a Classic is quite extraordinary.
I think we do have the shots of you jumping up and down and screaming like a lunatic. Well, at least I think we showed them at the beginning of the show anyway. There were so many there were so many great moments, Teddy. That first Breeders' Cup at Lone Star Park, Ed Dunlop was talking about that earlier this week. A lot of us have been to a lot of Breeders' Cups. What was so different about that one?
I thought, well, first of all, I think it was the first time it had ever been held in Texas. Lone Star Park wasn't known for it. That was really dipping into a whole different world. I'd never really had the racing abroad. We're so used to having it done here. But I have to say, the Americans made us unbelievably welcome, and the cowboy shows going on all around it. I have to say, the horse out of the Ouija Board story that I feel sorry for is Filmmaker. You can see her lying just in front of us there. She comes second here. And then when we go back and win again in 2006, she's also second there.
Yeah, Filmmaker, trained by Graham Motion. She was a real standing dish in the Breeders' Cups. 2006, Ouija Board came back to Churchill Downs. Let's have a look back at that performance. 2004 was Kieran Fallon. 2005, Belmont Park was Jerry Bailey, and she was beaten by Intercontinental. And this is 2006. You got great aerial coverage here of that white cap bobbing up and down. Filmmaker, the horse that Teddy was just talking about, to the inside in the aquamarine blinkers, and it's another stellar performance from the mare. We're just watching the closing stages. Lee, very fond memories of Ouija Board.
Absolutely. You see there, she came back on the bridle early in the stretch and quickened away. She had that great longevity which you long to see in a top flat horse. She had enormous character. She was involved in some of the most iconic finishes to around that period.
Teddy, we can't talk about this mare without having a look back at one of the greatest duels we've seen in the last 25 years. The duel with Alexander Goldrun in the Nassau Stakes. She does win, by the way. We're going to show it again.
It is an absolutely epic duel, that one, the whole way down.
Alexander Goldrun the outside under Kevin Manning. Just what was going through your mind the last 100, 200 yards of this race?
Do you know what? I think the angle I was at, because they were sort of slightly coming towards us, slightly I mean, your heart's in because it's a stride up and a stride down. But I think the angle I was at the end, I rushed out and down to the winner's enclosure, and it was only when I saw the photograph later, because you see from that angle, it looks a sort of a stronger victory, but it was unbelievably close when you see the camera. And of course, that was a pretty emotional moment because it was her last run in the UK, and Frankie took her for a great tour in front of the stands. And it really was wonderful how the sort of public sort of got behind her, and it was, the journey we had with that horse. And I think you talk about the longevity, because she did run for 4 seasons, people really got behind her, and she was such a wonderful horse. I mean, the low point was definitely 2005 Royal Ascot up at York, and we were very privileged to be with the Queen that day, and the panic, and we were worried about the weather, worried about the going, and she actually didn't do well, suffered a stress fracture in her leg, and oh my goodness, is this the end? So, every great story has some awful low moments from which you have to recover, and that was definitely her low moment. And we closed out the season with a Hong Kong Vase, which was a fantastic, exciting victory, wonderful trophy that we had for a year. And so we thought, we've got to keep her in training as a 5-year-old.
And then, of course, she produced a Derby winner herself in Australia. To what extent does her, as something of a breed shaper, give you as much satisfaction as all the great international jaunts that you went on, seeing her amass this litany of Grade 1s around the world?
There's always going to be that bit to it. And given the history, and over my shoulder, you can see the 17th Earl of Derby, who had 21 classic winners, and that is Hyperion, who, the wonderful story that the Queen did validate for me. Our dear late Queen, she visited Hyperion as a young girl. She was born in 1926. Hyperion won the Derby at 33. And as a young girl, she stroked Hyperion, and she was told to wash, and she said to her nanny, "I've stroked Hyperion today, I'm not going to wash for a week." You can see how the Queen had that love of racing from an early age. And so following in my great-grandfather's footsteps, to have a chance to breed like that is amazing. And the extraordinary thing is that Australia, by Galileo, out of Ouija Board, it is the first time ever that a Derby winner has been by a Derby winner out of an Oaks winner. And you just think you try to mix the best with the best to get the best, and you're on a quirky course like Epsom, but it hadn't happened for a quarter millennia till a bloke called Derby is lucky enough to be the owner that does it.
Teddy, thank you very much for your time, and wonderful recollections of a tremendous mare.
Great to you, Nick. And a sad day for Ouija Board, but we love you so much.
Subscribe to Racing TV's YouTube channel now to watch more great races like this.